There's always one deck that annoys my friends, and I always have one throughout the whole year. First off, it was Orcus back in 2019, as that's pretty much all I played, which is insane that I stuck with Orcus for that long, and I still play it till today. The year after that, we had Emancipator. I've been playing that since January 17th, whenever they went on to Edo Pro, so I have a long history with that deck. And then finally, we have Albaz, or what we call branded. So today I'm going to be covering this deck, and I do have to say, I took inspiration from a recent topping deck that the OCG had. The only changes is that there's 3 different cards because they were running Max C. But other than that, let's get right into it. So for the Albaz core, we have Fallen Albaz. This is your main center card for all your fusion monsters outside of 2 of them, which is your Despia Quarteritis and Masquerade of the Despian Dragon. You could still use it for those summons, but this is a core cast of all your fusions from your Ice Jade, your Mirror Ice Jade, I should say, your Albion, and your Lubellion. After that, we have Spriggan's Kit. This is a card that searches out any of your branded spell and trap cards, which is very helpful. It gets you the one that you're missing in the mid combo, and if you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz on your field or in your graveyard, you get to just special summon it. It's a nice little card. I really love it. I would run a 3rd copy, but 3 seems like a little brick because you run out of cards here and there. And afterwards, we're only running the 2 Ecclesia, the Virtuous, in white, because this is all you really need. You're running the 3-2 ratio that a lot of people usually run nowadays for cards, and people should start playing 2 of this in their Sword Soul list because the reason is just Ash Blossom bait going second, or in general. And finally, we have 3 of one of the wonderful hand traps. We have Tri-Brigade McCourier. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz, you send it from your hand to the field to hand or field to the graveyard and negate it. And if it's banished, you add 1 Fallen Albaz or 1 monster that specifically lists it. So you can add your Spriggan's Kit or your Ecclesia the Virtuous in white. I'm also happy that we're getting the structure deck in April, on April 8th, because this deck is, I foresee, being meta. Not a lot of people see it, but I see it. I saw in Emancipator that they had the power. So with my judgments, I hope I'm correct with that. After that, we're going into the Despia stuff because this is the best supporting engine that you can have for Albaz. We have 1 Dramaturge of Despia. This is more of your extender, and if a Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link monster special summon except during the damage step, target 1 effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. So this is just the interrupter if you have something like Branded and Red face down, or if you have Ecclesia to summon out Fallen Albaz, so you get an interruption. After that, if it's used for a fusion summon, and it's sent to the graveyard or banished, you get to special summon it. Special summon it back with 3k beat stick, and then we have also the one Ad Libitum. It summons any of your Despia monsters from your graveyard that's level 8, or any of them from your graveyard. If it's used as a fusion material from the hand or field that has to be sent to the graveyard or banished, you target a Despia monster or level 8 or low or higher fusion monster that is banished or in your graveyard except itself, and you get to special summon it. So if your DPE was sent to the graveyard instead of being destroyed, you can just summon it back. Next, we have 3 of the prime card, Aluber, the Despia Jester. I'm happy I picked them up when I did because they're now like $65. So this is one of the key cards of the deck because it searches out everything. If it's normal or special, you can summon it off a branded opening. And then if a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, while it's in your graveyard, target effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and negate that monster's effects until the end of this turn. You can only use 1 effect per turn as a balancing act. Kind of funny because it's a jester, but overall this is your prime card that you need. And then finally for the Despia stuff, we have 2 Despian Tragedy. This card adds your Despia monsters from your hand to from the deck, and if it's and you could banish it from your graveyard on the next turn because it's only use one effect. You could set a branded spell or trap card to your field, so you could reuse everything the next turn. Or you could just activate them straight up if they're like a continuous spell, field spell, or your branded fusion. Speaking of which, branded fusion is the most broken fusion spell that there is because it sends from hand, deck, and field. So it's a Shaddoll fusions on steroids. You don't need anything for your opponent to activate it. You don't need anything at all. You could just activate it straight up and summon out whatever you need. Most of the time I'm summoning out Albion so I can get another fusion out. So you can get a third fusion out. But other times I just summon out something like maybe your Mirror Jade right off the bat, or a Lubellion just to get the materials back into the deck to summon out the Mirror Jade, or a Despia Quarteritis, or Masquerade. After that, we have triple branded opening. This is one of the best cards in the deck, so I do have to say, watch out, because you discard a card, then you take a Despia monster, either add it to your hand or special summon it. So this is one of the prime cards that you kind of need for the deck. As you activate it, discard your comedy or whatever else you need, summon out a Luber, get your branded opening. Or branded in red, Paradise branded, pretty much the one that you're missing. And this card locks you into fusion monsters for the rest of the turn. And that's the thing about this deck. Almost everything locks you into fusion monsters. Even branded fusion does. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activated this card except fusion monsters. So things like Verte Anaconda won't work. You will never see it in the deck. If people try and force it, they're wrong, because you want branded fusion to always be live. After that, we have branded in red. You target Despia or Fallen Albaz in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Then you can fusion summon a level 8 fusion from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand field. But it cannot attack directly this turn, but that's fine. You're going to be shuffling it back anyways if you summon out an Albion or Rubellion. After that, we have the one Paradise branded. This is just a magical meltdown in a continuous spell form. And if you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add a Fallen Albaz or a monster that lists in its text. So that's where you get your Macaria or your Spriggan's Kit. And finally, we have one of the Despian Theater. This is just a fusion summon stuff, and if a non-fusion fairy monster you control leaves the field by opponent's card effect, or is destroyed by battle, you can target a level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So you can bring back things like Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer. And finally, a card that I was skeptical of, but came in handy a lot when testing last night, Branded Condemnation. This is a kind of like a solemn warning, but actually is good for your deck. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated that includes that special summons of monsters, return a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz as material to the extra deck, 1 face up you control, or 2 from your graveyard. And if you do, negate the activations, and if you do that, destroy that card. And also, you could banish this card from your graveyard, target a branded spell and trap card in your graveyard, except another copy of the self, or itself, and you just add it back to your hand. So you activate it on your opponent's turn. Your turn, you banish it to add whatever you need. So it's just recurring that branded fusion or some of your other cards like opening or even branded in red. And after that, we have Destiny Heroes. We're running Dasher and Denier along with Fusion Destiny. One of the things about this, you can summon out Lubellion, shuffle back your cards, your Denier and Dasher, so you could summon out your DPE for free. And then you could just banish those, cool, DPE or Lubellion, shuffle them back into the deck, summon out DPE, so you have another Fusion Destiny live if you're putting back your Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer later in the game. And then finally we have triple Ash Blossom, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Call by the Grave, and double Forbidden Droplet. So overall, that's the main deck, and now let's get into the extra deck. We have 2 Guardian Chimera. This card I was very hesitant at playing at first, but this card comes up quite a bit. It must be first fusion summon using only monsters in your hand and field as a material, minimum 1 each. Then, if it's fusion summoned by a fusion spell, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards used from your hand, and if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of cards used as material from the field. So if you use 2 from the field, 1 from the hand, you get a draw, and you get to pop 2 cards. Or if it's 2 cards from hand, 1 card from field, you get a pop and 2 draws. So this card is insane, and I definitely recommend playing it. After that, we have 2 Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. This is a quick effect. Send a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz to banish 1 monster on the field, and it cannot be used until the next turn. So it has a Pokemon lock effect for a lot of your effects, and if it leaves the field by your opponent, card, effect, whatever, you can activate this to card, and you get to board wipe your opponent until at the end phase. So there's that. Next up, we have 1 Predaplant Dragonstapalia. You can also run Starving Venom, but Dragonstapalia is pretty good, as it's a quick effect. Target a face-up monster your opponent controls. You place a Preda counter on it, and if it's level 2 or higher, it becomes level 1, and as long as it has the Predaplant counter. And also, negate the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that have Preda counters on it. So this just counters a lot of your cards that you're going up against. Like, if you have a DP on the field, you could just summon this out, and they try to activate DP, you just Preda counter it. So it just turns that off. And after that, we have double of the Lubellion. Lubellion is here because it is another type of Albion at the cost of discarding 1, but you shuffle the materials back into your deck among the cards in your graveyard and or face up banished. But for the rest of the turn, this card cannot attack, which is absolutely fine because you're going to just be setting it away if you're going to be summoning out a DPE or really anything, so you could just pop it or fusion summon this away, which is actually nice. Then we have Despia Quarteritis. It is quick effect, change all attack monsters currently on the field to 0, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. And if this leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you could add or special summon a Fallen Albaz or Despia monster from your deck. So if they attack into it, destroy it, summon out Albaz, effect, Super Poly. Kind of. Then we have the DPE. This is self-explanatory. We have the Masquerade Dragons. Pay 600 for each, and if an opponent controls a Ritual Fusion, Exceed Synchro, or Link, while this is in your graveyard, quick effect, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. That's fine. You can shuffle it back with the Lubellion. We have 1 of the Brigand. This is only a send target to search out your Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Then we have Albion, 1 of the better fusions. If this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon 1 level 8 or lower fusion monster by banishing materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard. And if this is sent to the graveyard, you can set a branded spell trap card directly from your deck. So, Albion, pretty good card, and we just have the 1 dangerous just in case. If it's just to shuffle stuff back so you could summon it, and yeah. So you get your Fusion Destiny live again. So I do have a replay, and it is right here against my friend Tetra, and I go second, I believe. No, I go first. Normal summon your Aluber, grab Paradise, activate Paradise, use Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion summons out Albion, trigger Albion, and Branded. Branded gets a search as kit. Albion gets a summon of Lubellion, and then you go into Masquerade. Kit effect, you get a search, and then I'm going to activate the theater, fusion summon into double Masquerade. So he only has 6 effects he can use until it's game. And this is one of the funniest things ever. Having to burn for 600 per effect that is activated is kind of just insane. For a deck like this, it shouldn't really be able to do this, but on a turn 1 basis, it is definitely scary. And you can see he's trying to go through his combo. He goes Hulk. He could have just went into an Axis Code Talker here instead of just linking up into so much. And he's just wasting a lot of life points here. And the funny thing is, you burn for the 1200 when Axis Code is summoned. So that's kind of funny. I summon out the Masquerade back, and it's his turn. And he goes out on his own accord. But, and I think I do have this one right here. So this one was more of a grind game. He was playing heroes and I was playing the deck. So let's see what I could do with this type of hand after he does his full combo. I didn't expect that this deck could actually just full break board, but it actually did. So he goes into the fair, sending Shadow Mist, activating both effects, and then he gets the Dusted Gold. He increases it out, and I Ash Blossom. I was Ash Blossoming his increase all games. He goes Vision Hero, sending the Mally, banishing the Shadow Mist to get the Polymerization. Cross Crusader summons out the Malicious and tributes the Search. Fusion, Polymerization to go into Adoration. Mally effect, summon out Mally. Go into Dread Decimator. Denier puts back the Mally. Then Dusted gives for Dark Calling effect. He goes into a Bane, set 1 and pass. I activate my Curtain, and this summons out your Jester and your Branded Fusion. Activate Branded Fusion, summon out Albion, effective Albion. We go into Lubellion, and Lubellion summons out Mirror Jade. We're going to activate our field spell, and I do make a misplay here and there, so that is one thing. That was a misplay. I forgot to put it on Bane because I found out Bane cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects last night. Or I completely forgot, and Ecclesia comes back to hand, and we get a set of Branded in red, along with having a lovely thing here. He droplets away the Super Poly to negate my Dragon's Despia, and banishes my lovely friend, and I still get to summon out a Luber. So, my turn, I draw another Luber. I summon out the Ecclesia, use its effect, summon out the Albaz, use its effect to Super Poly into Mirror Jade. Branded in red, I get to summon out Lubellion, and I can't really activate its effects because I'm out of targets. And then I get the lovely monster effect, and Ecclesia comes back. Ecclesia is kind of a dumb card in the deck. He goes, a hero lives. Cool. Summons out Liquid Soldier, attempts to activate Liquid Soldier, and then increase, I get to go up into, and using the Mercurier, he goes into a Verte, uses Verte's effect, and I chain Branded Opening. I summon out Comedy just for another monster, because what's going to happen is that a fusion monster leaves the field, which is fine, and I get to board wipe, and I get to negate DPE's effect, because it all happens in one chain. And Mirror Jade comes back, wipes the field, DPE triggers, Ecclesia gets come back, and then Branded Fusion, I top deck. This card is literally nuts. Albion triggers, go into Quarteritis, then go into this one. Normal summon out the Luber, and I get a Branded in red, activate the Branded in red, to summon out a Masquerade, and I get to set the Condemnation. Ecclesia comes back again. It's just Ecclesia Turbo. He's going to attack into 1200, which is absolutely fine. Then I get a Fusion Destiny of my own. I set back the Branded Fusion, summon out my DPE, use its effect, target, so it baits it out, and then I switch into attack for Ice Jade and attack for game. So yeah, this deck is very scary, and it can break boards if you have a pilot that knows what they're doing. Overall, I am really in love with Albaz. I really love it, and I know it's going to get hit at one point because it's going to be meta, just like Adamantipator, but I have no clue what they're going to hit in the future. Maybe like a Luber, because it's one of the cards that gets everything, or maybe Albaz, because you run multiples. But I want to know what you guys think. Hit that like button down below, and if you're new here, please subscribe, as we passed 500 subs not too long ago. And I want to continue growing this channel. But anyways, see you guys in the next video, and goodbye.